Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Londonderry Town Council meeting. Today is October 2nd, 2023, and we are here at 7 o'clock. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for a moment of silence. Today we had a working fire in town, and all of our people were safe, and everyone in the building was safe. So our moment of silence is here for the fire department tonight. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the council is going to need to excuse itself for a few minutes. We're going to enter non-public on under 91A:3, Section 2, subsection C for a tax deficiency issue. Can I have a motion roll call vote for moving to non-public?
So do you need a motion or roll call?
We don't need a motion for non-public. We can just go roll call.
Aye, Ted Combs.
I, Chad Franz.
Aye, John Farrell.
Hi, Ron Dunn.
Folks, we're going to step across the hallway, so we're going to have a discussion with the town manager about this issue. Kirsten, upon Mr. Butler's arrival, please tell him to join us.
Mr. Chairman, we'll be going upstairs because the Sunnycrest room is occupied.
I guess we're going upstairs.
Send Jim up?
Let the record reflect that Counselor Butler joined us as non-public. I'll take a roll call vote to come out of non-public.
I, Ted Combs.
I, Chad Franz.
Hi, John Farrell.
Hi, Jim Butler.
Hi, Ron Dunn.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of non-public and into public comment. Anyone for public comment tonight? Wait, 1 second here. There was, I think the fire chief actually wanted to speak.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Chief, you wanted to address the council.
Good evening, Londonderry leadership. I just wanted to give a quick update as to the fire department. It's important to me that the citizens and the taxpayers are as up to date as possible as it relates to the operations of the fire department. So I just want to take a couple of minutes, do some quick hitters of information for them. The first one is promotions. Obviously, anytime a fire chief is elevated from within, it opens up positions downstream. So we've had a deputy chief position open up, a battalion chief position, and a lieutenant position open up. We ran a process for the deputy chief position that I vacated, and we have selected battalion chief Phil LeBlanc for promotion to deputy chief. Phil's effective date as a deputy chief will coincide with the battalion chief and lieutenant promotions, and this is a way in which we can try to save some monies in overtime costs, so there won't be a vacancy in those positions. For the battalion chief, that was posted this morning internally by the HR director, Tara Koza. It's got a closing date of October 9th. So we anticipate having 5 or so candidates put in for that. God bless. For lieutenant, they just the lieutenants just went through an assessment center interview and written exam that took place at the end of last week. The results are currently being scored by an outside agency, and those scores will be presented to Deputy Chief Heinrich upon completion of those scores. And then we'll look to fill all these positions. But it's important that we move as swiftly but as diligently as possible when filling these roles, because it's in the best interest of the department's structure and rank and hierarchy, but also for the community. And I just want to give a shout out to Division Chief Brian Johnson, who, as you know, is the president for LAEA, which is where the battalion chiefs and the deputy chief come out of. Brian had waived the mandatory 14-day posting period for those two positions and streamlined it to 7 days. So, Brian, I want to thank you for making sure that we can move the organization forward as quickly as possible. The SAFER grant. So as you know, we are in the running for a SAFER grant that was approved by the council, and the deadline to receive word on the SAFER grant passed on Friday, this past Friday. As of this time, we have not been told no yet on the status of the SAFER grant. So oftentimes that's looked as a good thing because a decision hasn't been, it's easy to say no, but we haven't been told no. So I suspect very shortly we should be hearing from the federal government, FEMA, on the status of the SAFER grant. And the SAFER grant is to fund 4 firefighters positions for the fire department. So I'll be updating you more with that as we progress. We had a budget committee site visit on the 21st of October. Councilor Dunn, you were present as a liaison for the town council. This was a very long meeting held at Central Station with members of the BudCom. It was an awesome experience. We are lucky that we have citizenry that wants to be educated, asks the hard questions, and wants to be informed. So there was a lot of participation from the budget committee, from Councilor Dunn. We started at Central Station, kind of talked about the operations of Central, and then we went down to Station 2 to look at the conditions of the building down at Station 2, and then finished up at Station 1, and I think we finished, Kirsten, you were with us around 9:30, 10-ish?
Yeah.
9:45. So
Yeah.
it was time well spent, and we truly appreciate, Councilor Dunn,
Absolutely.
your participation with that, and the chairman of the Budget Committee, Patrick Cassidy. The last one, so we had a building fire this afternoon, or this morning rather, at 29 Red Deer. This was a kitchen fire that was that occurred in a 1.5-story single-family wood frame home, or a split entry. And as is the nature of the Londonderry Fire Department, we like to do aggressive interior firefighting. As a result of that, we were able to keep a small issue small and confined to the room of origin, which is important because the house is still standing and the effects, the personal effects, are still there. There is significant smoke and fire damage, pretty much isolated to the kitchen, but smoke damage throughout. What was unique about this call, to speak to the increase of call volume that we're having, and these aren't scare tactics, these are facts, is that when this call came into fire alarm, all Londonderry Fire personnel were committed throughout town on different emergencies. So we had to rely on mutual aid and callback. And callback is when a call comes in and we don't have the people. Fire alarm puts out an all call for off-duty members to come in. And we did get a few members to come in, including a lieutenant and a battalion chief, who were able to take effect at the building fire. The big thing is there were no firefighter injuries, there were no civilian injuries, and the members did rescue one cat, which is big for the family. It's a tragic thing to happen, but when we can do something like that, that's very important. Right now, the fire is still under investigation with the Division Chief of Fire Prevention, Brian Johnson, and he will have more information forthcoming, which I'll be sure to get to you, TM. But that's all I have for some quick hitters of information as to what's going on at the fire department. So thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and open up public comment.
Richard Belinsky, 89 Hall Road. Back on 710, I brought something to the attention of the council that you already knew about anyway, and asked to get some clarification on what, if anything, was being done to rectify the situation. And the situation is the $80,000 that the town's owed for repairs the town paid for the Lions Hall. As we all know, the Lions had a lease for $1 a year that required that they pay for all maintenance and all repairs. And over the years, the town chose to, in some instances, pay for those, and it totals $80,000. I asked that there be, we could get some clarification as anything that's being done to rectify that and get the taxpayers' money back. And it's been 84 days. In 84 days, it's been crickets, which is what I expected, because it's what's done when the town doesn't want to answer a question. They want it to go away. You guys up there over the last few months have been complaining about the number of 91As. This is why you got to do a 91A. Otherwise, you don't get an answer. With that being said, I'm going to hand Mike a 91A on this. Get 5 days. I'm all set.
Thank you.
Christine Perez, 5 Wesley Drive. You've all heard the expression, put the cart before the horse. That's what I'm going to talk about tonight. About a month ago, a private citizen organized a open house for anybody in town that wanted to come and talk about the Lions building. And it was attended by some people, including Mr. Farrell. And at that time, it was asked, what do you as the citizens want to do with this Lions building that is your building? And at that time, it's my understanding, I was there, Mr. Farrell, you said, well, we really don't know, we don't know this, and you threw around some figures. So, right shortly after that, the town put out a nice memo saying, come October 14th, from 10 to 12, people of Londonderry, about what you want to do with the Lions building. Yet tonight, we're being presented with a very detailed plan, right down to what office is going to be here, where this bathroom is going to be, what this is for, where this is going to be. But you haven't heard what the people of Londonderry want to do. You haven't heard what the people of Londonderry, who own the building, want with this building. Now, you can say it's all preliminary. It's all preliminary. It's just speculation. But it's putting the cart before the horse. This presentation should have been done, if you cared about what the people of Londonderry said, at that meeting on the 14th. This is what's out there. But what do you want to do, the people of Londonderry? This appears like many other things that have come across in Londonderry as a done deal. A done deal. No, I know the people have to vote on it, but it's coming across as a done deal. And that is not this is why the people of Londonderry file 91As and don't trust the transparency of the town.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Thank you. Public comment's closed. Okay, Mr. Town Manager, Town Treasurer discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. You'll remember from last year's budget season that there was a discussion about possible changes to the method of installation that applied to the town treasurer. Currently, under the town charter, the treasurer is an elected position. This is something that there was a discussion about potentially changing last year, and as you will recall, ultimately the council voted to move a charter amendment to the ballot that would appoint the town treasurer as opposed to elect the town treasurer. That measure failed on the ballot, but as we're coming into budget season, there are certain decision points that we need to meet. And given a long lead time that applies to charter amendments, and the fact that there are things that would have to happen in order to bring such a measure forward again, I thought it was timely, and I understand there may be some interest around revisiting this measure. And so for that reason, the town treasurer, the sitting town treasurer, is here. I think that she has a valuable perspective on this, and we didn't hear from her last year, at least not in a public setting. So I thought that it would be appropriate to hear from her, and that's why this item is on the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Right, and she's been the town treasurer for 12, 14 years.
Long before I got here.
So, Ms. Wagner, the floor is yours.
I'm not going to stand. Kathleen Wagner, now at 12 McGregor Court, number 402. I also have property at 15 Parmenter, and I also have property at Pillsbury Cemetery. So I'm pretty covered to be a Londonderry resident. Okay, what do you guys want to know? What my thoughts are, it was my bad last year for not coming out because I really didn't expect that it would fail. Because it is a antiquated law in today. It was done in the 1700s when towns were first being incorporated, and you needed a form of a treasurer. But what's happened is the communities have gotten so much larger. The budget, what is our budget now, Mr. Malaguti?
Including sewer, it's north of $40 million.
40 million. So I would say you kind of need a CEO, a board of directors, and a finance manager, including a treasurer, to manage that kind of funds. And we now have a finance department. I am not the true treasurer of the town. And for all those people that are concerned about oversight and not having the fingers of the community involved, that is a misleading statement in the sense that any resident today in Londonderry can come down and ask to see the town's books.
We see ads in newspapers, online, and everything else, towns like Hudson and everything, who are out advertising for town treasurers. It seems that you can even be the town treasurer in another town and not be a resident of some towns according to their charter.
Well, I wouldn't like that if that became, I think we need to keep strict guidelines that the treasurer should be a member of the community, even if appointed.
I think you shared with me at one point that the town treasurer, over $100 million goes through the town's clerk's office, and that the town treasurer oversees that revenue that comes through the town.
Correct. And I also think that we have, Justin, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is the burden of the town for the finance department? And I mean everything, employees, benefits. How many employees? What's the total figure we pay?
For,
The entire finance department.
oh geez, I don't know that budget off the top of my head. You're looking at probably 500 to 600,000.
So we're paying $500,000, and you expect somebody to run and get $2,500 and manage that.
You guys got questions? I guess what we're trying to figure out, what we're seeing across the board is, you know, the internet, the way that businesses are run, all changed over the last 20 years. You know, the auditors are looking at things. Our finance director has recommended last year that we do something different. And I'm not saying we should or we shouldn't do anything different. I think we need to have a conversation about how things have changed.
That is the underlining, the change. We were $1 million, maybe $1, $2, $3 million back in the 70s. Somebody could do that. Who wants to be responsible for 40 million at being elected and then being able to be accused of, in the paper, on the common, anywheres they like, to say, oh, this person isn't, this person kind of steals, or this person's unethical. That's what happens when you become an elected official. Honestly, who in their right mind is going to run for anything in today's environment of politics? And an appointed person would be protected from that.
Mr. Malaguti, if we appointed somebody, could we get a legal opinion on whether or not we can, I'm not asking you for a legal opinion, could we get a legal opinion on whether or not we would be able to do a background check?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman.
If, you know, if they put their application in, would we be able to, you know, do some sort of references or background checks or things like that? I'm not sure if we can or we can't under the statute.
I could certainly get that answer.
Please proceed.
So, a couple rhetorical questions, and obviously the source document for this information would be the town charter. May you please outline the duties and responsibilities currently of the town treasurer for the public?
The current duties are state statute, and I am to, on the York orders, do the funds of, send the funds out on the specific guidelines of the town council. I am, though, however, completely responsible if we find out that some misappropriations, I guess is the word I'm looking for, happen. Then it becomes all the responsibility of the town treasurer. But I do not set the budget. I do not tell you how to spend the money. I do not have authority over any of that.
So, being that you oversee the finances, if you will, and everything gets paid, do you have access to like our bank account, like the town's bank account and stuff?
Yeah, I'm a signer, so I could come in and sign checks and do stuff. Actually, there was an instance here, long before your time, where we had an issue in the finance department, and I was able to go. I was not concerned they were going to do anything wrong, but it was kind of heated. And I came down and removed the stamp, because currently there's a stamp so that they can stamp the checks. And I went through and signed by hand every single check and made sure it matched up.
But I guess my question is, there's nothing other than the law that would stop you from going to blank bank or credit union withdrawal?
No. There's protection points. I can't do that. I can't go into a bank account. And I also, so everybody knows this, I can't throw a hissy fit and say I'm not going to sign anything and take the stamp and close the town down. Because the town is obligated to pay its bills. So I have to pay the bills of the town, whether I want to or not.
So correct me if I'm wrong, if I can ask the town manager a question.
keep going.
The proposed change that was on the proposed warrant last year was to essentially remove the elected position and transfer it to an appointed by the council, the town treasurer.
That was the proposal, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I have no other questions right now.
And I want to be clear that I'm not proposing this year. I am alerting the council to the fact that if this is something that is going to proceed, now is the time to start talking about it.
No, I don't, I'm sorry.
There's a quick question.
Wait,
So
please.
Kathy, just for the public, you are in favor of this?
I am, okay, how do I'm going to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I just wonder, because,
The whole truth and nothing but the truth. I love history, and I love the importance of the treasurer and the elected position and the oversight and the members of the community having it. But why I'm for this is because of what happens to an individual who has to run for public office. All gloves are off at that part. I've had to go through, and trust me, I got a thick skin on me, and some of these people are vicious. And you've got to have a thick skin to run in government today. And I think you're leaving talent on the table because people don't want to run. It's a popularity contest. Running a town election is a popularity contest. It's who you know, who knows you, and if you can get your people out to vote. It might not necessarily be the best person for the position. And that's why I believe that the town would be in a better position now with the way things are, the fact that we have finance department, the fact that we're audited, the fact that people will still have the same ability to come in at any time to audit themselves personally our books if they feel so inclined. And we would still have a citizen on that position because they were appointed. You can do a background check. Maybe we can have somebody with great qualifications that's retired in town and wants to come in and do this because they care. They want to be a community member for this, for the town they've moved into or they live in. But when you have to run for election and put up signs and have people say that your character isn't what it really is, and you have to put up with it, and then you get attacked personally, and your family gets attacked personally because they can, I think people don't want to deal with that anymore because of today's environment. And that is the only reason why I'm for it. I believe in the history of the town treasurer completely, but to subject people to what they go through once they put their name in the ring is your people are staying at home. They're not coming out. And that's why the argument is we always have the same people all the time on, because who wants to put themselves out there anymore? And that's why I'm for it.
okay, well, thank you.
So the only qualification to be town treasurer is to be 18 or older and be a registered voter.
Correct. And get elected.
And we probably do, Justin can correct me, but we probably do very few checks now, and probably 80% of our transactions are in some sort of electronic format.
I think Justin can speak to what I do now.
So currently, we have actually switched to a payment system to assist with obtaining various revenues from ACH, premium ACH dividends, as well as credit card. The actual breakdown, that I'm not 100% sure, but the actual checks we cut in-house has dropped considerably. The checks we cut in-house typically need to be issued in a quicker fashion, and it's typically when the post office has not been delivering in a timely manner that we start bringing it here to make sure we can get it out the door as quick as possible. But our main source is typically now credit cards to try and get the rebate back from that, since it's going to be paid anyways. We see between 20 and 40,000 in credit card rebate annually.
That's great. Thank you. Any other questions for the treasurer? I mean, if we want to ask her to come back, if we decide to go down a path or not go down a path, I mean, I don't think this is just more informative so that the council can take things under consideration.
I have one more question for the
Yeah,
town
please,
manager.
please do.
John, would it be appropriate to ask or direct the town manager to obtain a list of maybe 2 or 3 New Hampshire towns that have an appointed treasurer?
Sure, I'm sure that's
That
out
was
there.
going to be one of my questions to Mike. I'd like to know if he knows tonight, if any towns off the top of your head, Mike,
What's the
that have
trend?
done.
Where are people going?
The
with
town
this?
of Merrimack, the town of Derry,
Can you hold on?
I believe Concord is appointed as well, but I'm not 100% sure on that
Can
one.
we verify that, Justin, please?
Yep, I know for a fact that Merrimack and Derry are appointed treasurers.
Is
I saw
Hudson,
Hudson advertise for it.
Hudson is as well.
I mean, the law, I believe in the state statutes, it was modified. But it's kind of like, and I'll use an example of where it stands now to where we are now, is the same thing with postings of meetings. How many people come to town hall anymore? You've got it posted on the window out there. Most people do their business either online. So the posting laws of the state, where you have to have it in the paper and you have to run it here and you have to run it there. But Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think our website counts as a posting
It does under 91A.
now, under 91A.
Correct.
But so every meeting and everything now, we don't have to worry. If you post it on there that a meeting's taking place in
No.
20,
No, so 2 prominent places, one of which may be the town's website.
So,
okay.
so
Because we're so far behind in that because of how we've evolved. That's why I'm saying the same thing with the treasurer. We need to evolve.
So what I believe, I think I hear you say, is the reason why we need to do this is because there are some people that are hesitant to run for this elected position based on political outfall, and because it would be, if we were to appoint, we would bring back some of that talent, and we, with confirmation from our attorneys, quite possibly could do some sort of legal and financial background checks.
And
Have someone qualified to be in this role.
And I also believe the position is antiquated at this point. And the only fear I have, and I would ask, is that if we do appoint a citizen, we don't appoint somebody in the town hall. And so it keeps its transparency. And yeah, I really do believe elected officials are few and far between because of just how hostile the environment's gotten. So yes, Chad, I'm completely on board with what you stated as part of my reasons.
And I do think that there are good people that do run as well.
Yes, and I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I stand at the polls every year for this thing, every 3 years. And people have, first thing too, is we need to start education on this our government, because people really don't understand how Londonderry works. And people don't understand the position of treasurer. The first question is, well, how are you going to get my taxes down? I can't get your taxes down. I have no control over the budget. I do whatever I'm told by you guys. You're the oversight.
That's why there's a lot of benefits to Leadership Londonderry.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, yes, please.
So I think, a little bit of commentary on this would be is if this went to a appointed position, I think the job description would potentially have to change, as majority of what we do is digital. And it's not as much anymore, as we've heard from our treasurer and our town finance director, that they barely sign any checks anymore. So I think the whole job description itself would also have to change if it did go to being an appointed position. So I think would have to be some thought put into that, potentially from our town attorneys and what we can do, but also with the finance director and our current treasurer upon what would make the most sense for this position, but still have it be relevant for a town person to want to be part of it.
There definitely would have to be revisions.
I mean, it needs to be modernized. That's just, we don't want to get rid of the position. its character and its history. But it just needs to be modified.
Mr. Chair, I'd entertain continuing conversation. I do have a question. What would be the most appropriate way to find out from maybe the finance directors of Merrimack, Darien, Hudson, their experience with an appointed? And did they transition from elected to appointment in the most recent past?
Sure, you need to find out a few things. I also think they changed the pay scale for it as well. So maybe the town manager could direct the director of finance to contact those folks.
So the town of Merrimack, I can tell you that their number 2, their deputy finance director, acts as their treasurer. That's been the case for several years now. I'm not sure when they switched over.
Would you be willing to maybe put together some data and when it went in effect, and then just a paragraph from each, if it's appropriate, Mr. Town Manager and Mr. Chair, of, I mean, this might be challenging, but like, you know, their optics, their observation of an appointed. Please.
I can see what I can do. Yep.
Thank you.
And Justin, just a side note, can you also let us know if they receive a stipend as well?
That
Because,
would be good too.
if you're a town employee, you don't need a stipend if you get,
Yeah,
in my personal opinion.
As I recall, the Hudson one was offering, you know, a nice stipend.
Correct.
So, yeah, if you could let us know, that'd be great.
Thank
Not that
you.
we're gonna do anything, let's just get some facts.
We need some information.
Anything further for the town treasurer? No, sir, we're not entertaining public comment right now, sir.
Mr. Chairman, just my 2 cents on this is last year we had the public hearing on this on November 21st. I think there was a general feeling that was a bit too late. So my request would be that if we're going to go down this road, that an earlier public hearing allows more time to not only receive the community's input, but also to make any adjustments to the text of the charter amendment that's under consideration.
Sure, maybe if we can get information back by the next council meeting, we can decide whether to approach the subject or not.
Very good, thank you.
All right, well, I have the microphone 1 second. Over my dead body, will anything happen to that Lions Hall? I'll chain myself to it.
Thank you. With that, I'll move to ordinance 2023-05, an amendment to the Londonderry zoning ordinance, building code amendment, section 9, reflecting the adoption of the 2018 additions to the of the international codes. This is a first reading only. I will accept a motion to waive first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
First meeting is waived. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be a public hearing on October 16th regarding ordinance 2023-05. Thank you very much. Ordinance 2023-04, amending the fee schedule for the issuance of permits by the Londonderry Fire Department. This is a first reading. I know that the fire chief is in the room. I will yield to him if he wants to say something, but generally, we go through first readings and then come back for the public hearing for the presentation. Did you want? You're good with that, thank you. I'll accept a motion to waive first reading on ordinance 2023-04.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative, first reading is waived. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, the next item is a first pass Lions Hall presentation. As much as some people may think that this is a done deal, it is not a done deal. This has been talked about for the last year and a half. This is the first opportunity the council is getting to see what we've heard chatter about over the last several months. This is our first chance to get a look at it. We will not be accepting public comment, as we will be listening to this for the first time and digest this and see what it is that it's being presented. There is a listening session on October 14th. If this is going to be entertained during the budget process, there will be multiple public hearings. There will be multiple opportunities to speak to this. The council has made no decisions, has not decided what they're doing. We don't even know what the presentation completely looks like yet because it's being shown to us for the first time. So that's what transparency in government is, folks. You bring something forward, you present it, and then you start talking about it. versus the opinions that may be shared sometimes in settings that are not in the council chambers. Mr. Wally, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mr. Town Manager. Good evening. My name is Dave Wally. I'm the Director of Public Works and Municipal Facilities. And as you eloquently pointed out, we are here to discuss the Lions Hall, formerly Town Hall, formerly Reverend Morrison Meeting House. With me this evening is Daniel Tenney from Weston and Sampson, who will go over some of the descriptive purposes of the work that we have performed. And for the viewing public as well, I just wanted to put together a small timeline as to how we arrived to where we are today. The building became available to the community in 1769, and it has served this community well for 254 years to present date. There has been a variety of ways that it has been utilized throughout that time. As far back as religious services, it was used as a meeting house, a town hall. There have been stories reported as having basketball games there, bingo nights, fundraisers, kindergarten classes that some attended there at some point in time, art classes, election campaign events. Certainly, we're all aware that it supports the old home day events and any events that take place on the common. Plays, musical performances, and the list goes on and on and on. There's been a tremendous amount of stories and history that has been discovered about the facility along the way. So in May of 2022, the Lions group decided to provide the town with a 90-day notice that they had intent to vacate the building. And therefore, in September of 2022, the town assumed all operational costs and oversight of the facility. In July of 2022, we conducted the hall evaluation with Weston and Sampson coming in, bringing in the professional engineers to take a look at the facility's overall structure and usefulness, if you will, what its deficiencies were. In October of 2022, the evaluation was complete, and that was presented to the town council. This July, past July 2023, we entered into another contract for the conceptual design to be performed with Weston and Sampson. And here we are tonight. So we've done quite a bit of work in a relatively short period of time, but very diligently, and have had a lot of people weigh in, both from the public and at the direction of the town manager. But the task that basically was put before us to get to this evening was basically what would it take to reopen that facility as a municipal facility? What needs to change inside there as far as electrical, mechanical, disability, accessibility, fire code, life safety code, parking, required bathrooms, etc., to restore its intended use as it was when it closed, how we were using it or how it was available to the public and the community at large before it closed. So the product you're going to see tonight is just that. We needed to figure out how much square footage we needed in order to make the bathrooms compliant. We needed to make sure we had second means of egress. We needed to make sure that we had ability for people to reach the second floor if disabilities are a challenge, as well as get into the building, meeting those requirements as well. And then make sure that the building is safe with fire prevention, sprinkler systems and whatnot, and that the current facility does not have municipal water, but gratefully it is not all that far away from it. So all of that was to be looked at under this particular task, and all the while being sensitive to the fact that it is a historical building, at least in regards to the members of this community. You know, throughout the last 50-plus years or so, there has been some cosmetic improvements to it as far as windows, siding, roofing, and the such, and even some interior sheetrocking and whatnot. But as far as the real important things that matter to a public facility, that heavy lift has not been done to that facility for quite some time. And we wanted to do so in a way that we could also, perhaps in the spirit of the building,
Some of the things that we have discovered in crawling in tight spaces and dark spaces along the way, wouldn't it be nice to bring that back out into some daylight for a greater appreciation of just how long this building has been there and some of the unique characteristics of it that I think would really be nice to put on display cost consciously for the community to share and experience and be educated on moving forward. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Dan, and he's going to walk you through the better part of the last 3 to 4 months that we've been coming up with tonight's work.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Thank you for having me back again. It's been about a year, and I'll report very quickly on what we did. I think Dave has explained quite well the work that was done last year. I'll pay more attention to what we've explored and found as opportunities and more detailed possibilities for the building. I won't go into much detail about Weston and Sampson. I think we've probably blown our own horn enough. Only a small change in our project team. Last year we had more of a broad base of engineers, structural engineers, mechanical, electrical, architects, looking at the building really for a condition assessment more than any real consideration of what might be done with it in future. So you now see some new names and faces on our list of personnel. So in last year, again, it was an overall building investigation. We looked at some very general redevelopment scenarios without any plans, without any real particular intention of what room might go where, but really based on the square footage of the building. Could you do a minimum program of repairs or a more extensive program of repairs? And for comparison, what would construction of new space, a new building, meeting the same functional requirements cost? So we had those costs for consideration, but really on a very, very preliminary basis. There was no hard architectural design to give them a whole lot more detail. So we found, as Dave pointed out, that the building is, it's got a lot of miles on it. Good ones, some not so good. And that is really a record of the various roles that it has played for the community for over 200 years. So, it would be great someday to do a time-lapse animation of how it started, how it grew, how it's changed, and ultimately how it may change yet again for the future. So you can see the original building form is there. Much of the detailing we think is under the siding. We've definitely found some nice surprises inside that give us some guidance as to how the future life of the Lions Hall. I think we'll have to decide what to call it. We go back to a certain point in history, or maybe it gets a new name. That would be entirely up to the town to tell us. But it's a great building. It's got a lot of potential, and as Dave pointed out, what we're looking at is what would it take now in a little more detail to bring it to good condition in the use that it has most recently been available to the town for. So we've done a little more investigation. We measured the building and drew up accurate floor plans. Some brave soul went up in the concealed space above the main hall ceiling and found really remarkable condition up there that I think could be a great focal point for the future. And we've looked at the site as well, because the site, as you're all very familiar with, is really dominated by parking and driveways and cut-throughs around the road intersection and the traffic light, and it really isolates the building for the most part from the front in a sea of asphalt. So we also understand that that site is a focal point of Old Home Days, and really represents a key location in the town center on the green. And so I think we've developed some ideas that might help to enhance that and again, give the building some new life. Now, Okay, there we go. So, the existing conditions I mentioned, and everyone's familiar with where it is and what it is, so I don't need to go into much detail here, but just, the focal position that it occupies on the green and overlooking, back at the other primary buildings, the two churches, the Grange, the bandstand, and the open space. It's really quite a special location. Next one, building floor plans. We now know how big it is and how thick some of the walls are, which gives us some clues as to what changes have been made over the years. And most pleasant surprise is recent inspections up above that ceiling. And what it appears is that there is an old, not original, but an old pressed tin ceiling that probably dates back to when the front part of the building was added to the original timber-framed hall, probably in the 1870s, I'm guessing, without being a historian of architectural components. I think it was about that time. And that actually matches some of the ceilings that are visible in the front part of the building now. So we think this probably goes back to around the time that vintage photograph was taken. So the pleasant surprise is that that ceiling looks to be in pretty good condition. It certainly is a candidate for restoration. And I think we measured about 5 feet or a little more of space above the current flat ceiling. So there's a real opportunity there. And so new possibilities. Our first direction was to consider how the presence of the building, the Lions Hall, might be enhanced in its key position at that southeast corner of the green. And we started looking at ways of moderating and controlling vehicle traffic to and around the building, and also of creating a space outside the front door that had a more prominent kind of a porch-like quality that would overlook the green. And it's remarkably a similar kind of a setting that the Grange Hall has just up the street. So we developed that into a very preliminary, but I think workable concept plan, which creates 2 driveways to the south of the building, eliminates the cut-through from the signalized intersection up the street, and creates a front porch. We call it simply a front porch, which includes a handicap access ramp and some steps and some sitting space and some flagpoles. And really, we think complements the character of the building in a traditional way, but answers some of the modern concerns that one would have. There's also space added to the rear of the building. I'll get to that consideration in a moment. And so that might end up looking something like this. It's meant to be traditional, but again, it does answer some contemporary concerns. That level is the same level as the main floor of the building. So once you're there, that's fully accessible and really would be a wonderful viewing spot for any events going on across the street. The building itself, this is color-coded, and I think I managed to not include the color coding on the slide, so I apologize. But the yellow is circulation space, stairs, lobby, new vestibule on the front with an airlock to keep the cold air out. Redevelopment of the existing front footprint of the building with bigger toilet rooms over to the right where they are now, but removing the kitchen from its current location. Maintaining what's now the mechanical room in the old vault to the left, just beyond the stair. Adding a chairlift next to essentially in the existing stairwell, with a little janitor's closet under the stair, where there's now one of the 3 toilet rooms are in there now. The hall itself is left in its full size. The floor would be repaired. It does need to be repaired, and we have some thoughts on how that might be done. Stage is maintained, current size. Thought we would get rid of the closets at the back and replace that with a curtain that would give more flexibility for actual theatrical use, or you could still store backdrops or scenery or other things. In the rear, we have maintained what's essentially that little storage area, which does seem to have been present back in around 1880, so that goes back quite a ways. But we've added space to the back left corner for more storage, and then I think importantly added 3 accessible toilet rooms along the back, a new corridor extending out the back. So that gives both an exit, a proper exit from the building. It's accessible from outdoors, from the outside, if there's an event in the the picnic structure out there that doesn't involve the interior of the building, that can be opened up for outside access. And then a larger, probably double or a little larger kitchen area. Now, that's shown here really for illustrative purposes. We've discussed back and forth just how that might be used. And kitchens are funny things. You really need to start with a menu, and then you work backwards and design the space. So this is really some square footage that could be purposed in any number of ways. Now, upstairs, the next slide, please. Sorry, this is a enlarged version of the front of the building, and that's the rear. These are all, I think, in the package you have. Upstairs, the real change is to create kind of a hallway in the middle. The chairlift would access that, the stairway would access that, and then have 2 independent function rooms to the right and the left. So the one to the right is a little smaller than what's there now, but would be more private and able to be used for any number of things. It's still a pretty good sized room. And then we took a look at costs. Again, very preliminary look. This is the site costs, and that includes all of the exterior work that I mentioned, the parking, the grading, utilities, and the terrace, the front porch, we can call it that. And then building additions and renovations and repairs. That's, again, a high-level view of what the construction costs might be. There are many ways, both for the site and the building, to look at procurement strategies and timelines, and they will affect, ultimately the final cost. And that, I think, is the extent of it. I'm more than happy to entertain any questions. But as Dave pointed out, this is not a final plan. It does look, the drawings always look more finished than they really are.
Yeah,
So I'm adding, I'm at, if I'm reading this right, I'm at almost 3.5 million?
correct.
Is Dale Carnegie gonna sell this to the public?
So,
I mean, because 3.5 million is a big number for this community.
understand. And I wish it were not, but the numbers are what the numbers are. We had to be real about it. We can't come in and say we're going to do, $3.5 million worth of work for $1.5 million. And so now is the time.
That'd be okay, you could say that.
And well, you can say a lot of things. It doesn't make them right. But, now is the time, I believe, that we have a product here. We have a little bit more of a narrowed scope on costs. And it is now time to, for those discussions even more robustly to come forward. Wednesday night, these numbers will be in front of the CIP committee. Updated numbers will be in front of them. They obviously have to, they've got a lot of things that they have under consideration. There's a lot of challenges that Londonderry has in front of them. And then 2 weeks from, or I should say, on October 14th at 10 a.m., we will then have a community meeting here to discuss this and bring in ideas, commentary, suggestions, criticisms, services desired or not. And we have a product that people can kind of look at and decide whether it's too much, too little, don't want it at all, what types of questions they may have as to what could it be used for, in a variety of things. And so that's up and coming. And the addition, just so you understand, the challenge that we had really was, it was an additional 1,500 square feet. I know it looks like a lot, but in order to get the bathroom size the right way, to get the chair lift in there and things like that, you had to kind of do things in a certain manner. And so, but people might say, there's no need for a kitchen. There is a kitchen there now. It's the only reason why, what Dan said, we kind of threw one in there. But it's not formally designed in any way. It's not intended to have a hood or a fire suppression system or anything like that, because that's not what's there now. But, you know, now as we shape our way forward on it, then these plans are easily to scale back from or add to, or make more robust.
Just one quick thing is, do we take into consideration any line of sight to grants? And I understand the restrictions around historic buildings and everything else.
Yeah.
We've had that discussion.
Correct.
I mean, are there any other kinds of grants?
There's one that more recently that we just became aware of as well.
Right.
But we have to do a little bit, we literally just within the week we found out about, but that's more for an existing
That's right.
facility.
So there's a grant opportunity that we just became aware of for community centers. The problem is that structures that are currently being used as community centers fare much better under their the ranking criteria. So part of that is a possibility. We would have to devise a very convincing package that this is the this is the type of community use that we're envisioning. This is the community programming that we're envisioning, so that we don't take the money, turn around, and then use it for something other than a community center. Now, let me be as clear as I can be that in any discussion that I've had, either with the town council or at the staff level, we've never talked about doing anything else. We've only talked about multi-purpose space that would be open to the community. But the problem is that this grant has very strict requirements for proving that you've either done that in the past or that that's what you're going to do in the future, and that I foresee as a challenge because it hasn't been exactly used as a community center in the past.
It's either that or the New Balance logo. I know.
And to the point about grants though as well, I mean, obviously, energy efficient type heating systems and things like that. There's potential for grants like that. If we're going to go with some kind of a solar package or something like that, if we're going to use it as a warming shelter or a cooling shelter, there are things that can offset some of the costs. But I understand the sticker shock. But as we all know, and I think Bob Slater's in the room, and he can attest to, the cost of construction for, municipal/commercial buildings is on the rise. It's very costly, and it's growing exponentially. And Dan and his team has done a good job at trying to, and I very pointedly tried to get numbers, but again, the numbers are what they are. And so now some tough decisions need to be made.
Understood. Jim?
Yeah, Dave, after looking at there's 8 items that affect the ADA compliance laws. If we, regardless of what we do with the building, if we open it up to the public, these have to be addressed. We're gonna have to spend money to update the ADA facilities in this building to comply with the codes. Am I correct on that? We have to put in a ramp. We have to have access for elevators. Right. We have to have the proper bathrooms with the correct radiuses for wheelchair turning and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. So that's an expense and a cost, regardless of what we use the building for. We need to address. Is that safe to say?
That's correct. And then, from, some of the other codes come along with, what will be done in there. How many tenants, how many people do you plan on having in the building? That sometimes can regulate how many bathrooms you have. Right. If the decisions are it's going to be, no more than 50 occupants in the building, then bathrooms can be scaled back. If there's no intent for, if you're going to have a function in there, you got to bring in your own cooler with waters and your own sandwiches and then clean up after yourself, and there's no kitchen availability, then the kitchen goes away. So again, it was a tough task to do, but the idea was knowing the existing facilities that are there. If we wanted to turn the key tomorrow and let people in from the public, how do we do it? And this is where we got.
Thank you.
Yes.
Now, I know this happens on the school side. Once you touch something, you have to then change and update everything. Would that then also adhere with this kind of building? That once you start getting into it, you now actually have to really start updating everything?
I can feel that. So,
Sure.
It, as far as like the electrical, it just comes to the front of my mind. You really don't need to be an electrician or anything to walk in and see the wiring in the front mechanical room to know that this doesn't fly.
Right.
And it all has to come out. And that was the new creation of the mechanical room at the back for the upgrade of the electrical and the HVAC and whatnot. So, yeah, commercial buildings fall under some heavy scrutiny. And when you get into a building that's 254 years old, sometimes one can only imagine, and this has been the difficulty of trying to get some of these numbers, you got to have some good contingencies there in case if you find something that just wasn't known, because we haven't done a real intrusive, we're not ripping down walls right now and looking inside. We're not trying to create problems, but you have to anticipate that you're going to come at least something along the way that's going to be unanticipated.
Right, exactly. I guess a side question.
And there is no fire protection in the building, so yeah, that's an
Correct.
add, so.
I guess the side question is, what is the potential use or the envision where the vault is right now?
So the vault was, that's a great question. The vault, in the way that it's situated, would probably be, one more slide, Mike, right there. It's fascinating, I can tell you that, being inside there. And that whole office area, if you will, the ceiling that even Dan talked about is exactly the same as what we discovered up above the existing ceiling height in the hall space, just not painted. And there's some brick that had been on the vault that had been covered over with plaster and whatnot. So that's some of the unique characteristics that we'd like to kind of bring back. Get the plaster off, clean the ceiling, and the vault would be more or less used as storage or files or whatnot. But it's not conducive to people being in that at any time.
Of course.
So, but there is an antiquated light that's wired uniquely, so there'll be obviously some lighting challenges and things like that. But and ventilation will be looked at. But the structural integrity of it is intact.
Good.
It's completely inside the building. So.
Wonderful.
Is there anything else? So, the fire department passed for like 6.2 million. It was probably the most difficult bond that we did ever on the town side of business. And it was a very heavy lift. At $3.5 million, at 60% of the voters, it becomes extremely obvious very quickly that a decision needs to be made of what are you going to do with the building. I think we need to come to that conclusion very quickly before this can go anywhere. I mean, absolutely should be listening to what the public has to say about it, because maybe that'll give us some ideas of what to do with the building or what not to do with the building. But at $3.5 million, I think I can safely say it's not a done deal.
I will.
I think it's a tall task for the voters to absorb this, and we have a lot more work to do. And I'm not saying you guys haven't done great work. What I'm saying is that there's more work to be done.
I couldn't agree more. Again, I think we are at the crossroads of 254 years of existence and useful purpose for the town of Londonderry. The town of Londonderry needs to decide, do they want to continue on this path, or do they want to say, thank you kindly, we're done, and there are other avenues to take, be it sold, be it whatever. Again, the task that was put before myself and Dan and his team was, if we want to make it, if this were to be a municipal facility, what would it cost to do that? And that's where we are. And now is the time, as I said, I think some conversations along the way were great, and I think it's excellent that there's some people in the community that are taking upon themselves to get together and have that discussion. And now I think more broadly, the town, now that they have a product, they can lay that in front of all of the town to come out and let their voices be heard. And then from there, it's really a community decision. from my standpoint as the Director of Public Works, having another facility to maintain and take after, you know, I mean, if that's my job, I'll do it, and I'll do it gratefully, and I'll do the best of my ability, but, you know, it's a community center is the vision. It's how it's been served in this town for, you know, over 250 years. And again, it's just, that's where we are. The cost will only go up, so before it definitively gets too far out of reach, then, you know, I think now it's time for the discussion.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Ballpark, what is the monthly upkeep?
Right now, I ran some preliminary numbers. I've got some numbers for, you know, maintenance going forward, and then there's some ideas that may be coming forth about, you know, what kind of revenue streams could you envision. But for the electric and whatnot, I might be able to have to just ask Justin to help me out with that on what we spent on electricity. But it's been.
What would be could you gather some information on what would it cost to maintain it as is? And the reason why I'm asking, and I might be way out in left field, but from a taxpayer perspective, if we know that there are some items looking at the CIP, there's some items on the school side, and there's some items on the town side that are coming before our taxpayers. I think the best thing we can do is be mindful of the taxpayers and make sure that we consider what happens twice a year is when they cut a check to the town and pay their taxes. So a concern that I have is with some big items coming up on the school side, some other items we have on the town side, and I think this info session will gather some good amount of intel from the community, and we have heard from the community. I think, you know, if this were to meet a warrant and go on the ballot, I think some information that would be useful is how much would it cost to keep it as is for right now and put it off a year, 2 years, 3 years?
Well, so as far as operating costs, as we're dealing with right now, yeah, some of those numbers we're looking at as we're in the budget process right now. As you know, when we took this on, our budget was already established. So we've been, you know, doing what we can with the budget we have. So that's something that as we're entering into this cycle, that we'll be looking for to potentially add to the budget
you understand
to keep the lights on, and yeah, exactly.
But because I mean, from my perspective, you know, we have an amazing building that could be used to some great potential, and we have some other items that will be put on the ballot for the voters who are our taxpayers to vote for. So I think maybe having a contingency, what if this isn't go on the ballot this year, maybe it goes on next year. I don't know. That's not my decision. But I think maybe looking at some figures like that might be would help me at least.
Well, operational cost-wise, we have to keep the lights on. We have to keep it from, you know, falling into complete disrepair and becoming a hazard. And yeah, that's going to be, you know, I'll be bringing that forward to put in for the budget.
Awesome. Okay, that's great.
But
then.
beyond that, you know, like we won't be plowing it. I personally plow it every now and then to make sure that if the fire department does need to get in there, fine, but not necessarily for people to go in there and park or even cut through in the wintertime. You know, the grass is cut a couple times in the summer, and that's about it. You know,
So it's minimal.
minimal, very minimal right now.
As I figured. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Now, to make it open to the public, to be a public building, it would have to be handicap accessible, correct?
Correct.
And so we can't even really technically open it to the public right now because it is not handicapped accessible, correct?
And the concerns we have with the floor as well, but that's only one part of the building. But yeah, I mean, it's non-accessible.
Right. So even if we did nothing with this building and just left it running for electric, water, heating,
Right.
we still cannot even open it to the
Correct.
public.
And to that point, to be clear, we winterized the building, we pulled all the water out of it, closed the bathrooms off and things like that, because we know it's not going to be in use. It's not available to the public or employees for that matter. I mean, there's if you have employees working there, you're going to meet all those compliances too.
Of course.
So.
Of course.
Anything else?
I have separate item on your budgeting items. For special equipment, you guys zeroed out those items for the time being. Any particular reason?
Yes, that.
For the
sorry,
kitchen
if you
and
don't mind that.
generator?
That was primarily two items. One was the kitchen, the fit out of the kitchen, because that really is a question mark as to what it might be used for. So it could be quite simple, just a preparation area that a caterer could come in with, pre-cooked meals, just warm them and serve, or it could be a full commercial fit out for a kitchen, to cook whatever, whatever the menu required. So without a direction on what needs to be designed for that, we didn't carry a budget for it.
And I take it, plan for $150,000 for the standby generator. That must be a
Yeah.
quite large generator for potential for a warming center, potentially?
I think more particularly, you'd want to be able to power the entire building in an emergency. Dave mentioned it might be a warming or a cooling facility. We've had some pretty wild weather, and it's not impossible that an ice storm could take the power out for a week. And so you'd want not only generator, but the fuel to be able to do that.
Right,
That's
so you wouldn't want
probably-
just a $10,000 generator, you'd want something more substantial.
You need something bigger. That number may be a little high. I just had a placeholder. But again, that would, if you're going to have a kitchen, you'd need more power to power that if you want full function of the facility.
And
So
then
it's
I had
kind of-
also
it's a little
noticed
bit
for the
related.
water service extension, you guys had zeroed that out for the time being.
That would be most important for a sprinkler system.
Right.
So if you don't need the sprinkler system, you don't need that. I don't know what the capacity is now. The kitchen, if it's a commercial kitchen, would have some fire suppression around the cooking surfaces. So you wouldn't necessarily, and that's not a water-based system, that's a gas bomb.
And do we have any sprinklers there right now, or
There are
no?
none there now, no.
So, but for it to be a public use building, would we need to have sprinklers?
I don't believe so under
Really?
the building code.
And it depends on what that use would be.
Interesting.
So based on, the types of, the amount of people you have in there, perhaps what you do in the building, code would dictate that.
Interesting, okay.
It would have to do with, the construction type, which we know, but then the occupancy, the number of occupants and travel distances are affected primarily by whether you have or don't have a sprinkler system. So a lot goes in the mix, and a lot of those are unknowns at this point.
And then also for the traffic markings, you guys had zeroed that out for the time being too. Any particular reason on that
I
one?
think that was just the marking.
Okay,
I think Dave offered to paint the
Yeah,
stripes in the
paint it.
parking
We can
lot.
take care
okay.
of that.
Just
We can
checking.
handle that in-house.
But that does bring up a point that there may certainly be some items on that list, both for the site and the building, that the town could undertake directly, or could contract for in a, not one single contract all at once.
Okay.
Okay.
And just, aside from this, I just wanted to let you know too that today we had the bid openings for the library roof. And so I'm evaluating those right now. The figures came in between 100 and 150,000 to do the existing original rubber membrane roof, and also one backside of the dormer as well. So those bids were open today. I know your next meeting isn't for 2 weeks, but I just wanted to give you the heads up that I want to look at those bids closely, check references, insurance, bonding, and all that, and move quickly so that that roof is done before wintertime. So I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Mr. Chair, I'll just chime in a bit
Go
of
ahead.
commentary with my experience in construction. My vast many years that I've had, I gotta say their numbers are a lot more spot on. As, pricing has been really increasing over time, and, a lot of the general contracting I've done, this is a lot spot on from what I've been seeing.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate the hard work and everything. I think we have a tall task ahead of us.
Don't disagree. Sure it'll
Thank
be-
you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, on to old business. Final review of term expiration list for appointment of town boards.
Good evening, everyone. So you have in front of you the list of all board and commission positions that are either expiring this year, that are vacant, or that are open due to resignations. But before I go into it, I would like to present to you that we had 2 people resign from boards this past week. So I would ask the council to approve the resignation of Glenn Douglas as a full member of the Recreation Commission, and Lee Jeffers as an alternate member of the Heritage Commission.
I'll accept the motion to accept the resignations as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. I will say I'm a little disappointed that Mr. Douglas didn't stay on. I'm actually the person who nominated him to that committee, and I thought that from everything I got, he was doing an outstanding job, and that his participation was valued by the committee, and that he had a lot of insight to some of the recreation programs. So I wish him well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Please proceed.
So the one additional, I reviewed the town municipal code and the town charter since filling these spots, and I did find that we have one additional spot that is not on here that I will post in the final form that I will send to the newspaper and post on the website and social media as our municipal code requires. And that is there's one additional alternate position for the ZBA per section 9.2 of the town charter. We are required to have 3. So we'll be adding a ZBA alternate position that will expire in 2026 to this list.
Any questions? We're going to have to come back to you at a future meeting to talk about whether the council is going to interview current sitting board members or not. We'll have that as a separate discussion. Generally, it's gone different ways over the years, so want to be able to have a discussion about it.
If it would be all right with you, it would be lovely to get new talent banks forms, just to make sure we have the most current, up-to-date information. Some of these board members have been sitting for many years, and it would be lovely to have the most current information on their interests, their contact information, to enhance our records. So if they'd be willing to do that, that would be lovely
free.
to express their interest. I will be reaching out to these boards and commissions, both the people whose terms are expiring, and I have the list of names if anybody has questions, and to their chairs as well, to make sure that we're all on the same page. I did do fairly extensive research into oaths of office, appointments, to come up with this list and make it as comprehensive as possible. My question to you would be, I did put a November 2nd deadline, so that leaves us 4 meetings in the rest of 2023 to fill these positions. It is a substantial number of positions with a potentially large number of interviews.
Well, we'll have to make the determination of whether we're going to interview Brady or not, and then we may have to have a special meeting.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions?
No, Mr. Chair.
Do I have your go-ahead to officially post this then?
Yes.
Everybody okay with it? Yep.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me get this back to my agenda. I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes as they are presented in our packet.
Just for point of clarification, Mr. Butler will need to recuse himself, is that correct?
Correct.
I will make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. You're recusing?
Abstain.
Abstain? You're abstaining.
I'm abstaining.
I already called for the vote, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I was waiting for your voice. All righty, let's see. I have liaison reports. Anything new to report?
Mr. Chair, I just have a quick update. The school board did have their second hearing, or their second reading of their purchasing policy, and that will move to a third reading. And that's it.
Mr. Chair, I'm on the building committee for the kindergarten, for the study of building the kindergarten, and the building committee will be presenting their findings to the school board tomorrow night, Tuesday, to the school board.
Thank you.
Great work.
Anything else? All righty, town manager report.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I just have 2 brief things. One is, I couldn't be prouder of the finance department and their interactions with the public. This is the one department that bends over backwards more than any other department to push information out to the public when they have questions. The town treasurer was here tonight. She complimented the finance department for doing just that. And so I have to respond to what I heard in public comment, which is that people have to file 91A requests because they can't get information out of the finance department or out of the town about the town's finances. Nothing could be further from the truth. The finance director does an excellent job, as I've said in the past, responding to citizen inquiries, taking citizen phone calls, and any suggestion otherwise is just wrong. I want to address specifically the suggestion that the town has ignored the inquiry that Mr. Belinsky has about recovering $80,000 that was spent out of the Expendable Maintenance Trust Fund to repair the Lions Hall. I know, because I've discussed it with him and I've stated this, that the town has indicated to Mr. Belinsky that we're not suing the Lions. The Lions who have done everything that they've done for the community. Any kind of pursuit of the Lions for the money that the town has invested in the Lions Hall to maintain that town asset over time would have to involve a careful look at whether that was throwing good money after bad money, whether that was going after a trusted partner, a trusted member of the community that I think should be commended. And so that would need to occur.
Just from clarification, all of those funds were approved by the sitting town council and voted to be expended.
And you checked off the next point that I was going to make, Mr. Chairman,
Just
which
checking.
is if we were to sue the Lions, I suspect their first defense would be, well, why did you approve all of those expenses? We had a lease that was drafted one way, didn't work in practice, and so the two parties cooperated to maintain that asset that the Lions safeguarded for all of those years, just doing the best that they could. Did they maintain it in pristine condition? No, they didn't, but they did the best with the resources that they had. I've told all of this to Mr. Belinsky. I've told him this multiple times. If memory serves, more than a year ago. Mr. Belinsky may not be satisfied with that answer, but that's very different from the town is ignoring us. The town is not giving the people the information that they're requesting. So that's what I wanted to say on that point. On a more positive tone, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to direct everybody's attention to what our rec department is doing. As was introduced to the town council last time around, we now have an assistant rec director, Doug Cole, and together with Mr. Salidas, the director, they are working on fall programs and events. They are improving their outreach efforts to the community and putting together things like Fall Into the Season event, Trunk or Treat, a youth program that they're going to be running. So really good things happening in the rec department. I couldn't be happier with their public outreach, with the work that they're doing to reach all of our residents in town. And that's all I have for my town manager report tonight.
Thank you. Kelly, anything for the assistant town manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a reminder that the planning board is holding its public hearing this Wednesday for the capital improvements plan. Again, public hearing, so please attend if you wish.
Thank you. Anything further from the council? Our next meeting is October 16th at 7 p.m. in the council chambers. On November 4th, we're going to be having the budget kickoff meeting here in the council chambers at 9 a.m. This is a workshop. This is not a public hearing. It's not public comment. It's a presentation by the department heads and by the town manager of their budgets. It's more of a listening session and questions for the council and for the budget committee. November 6th, we'll be having a town council meeting, and November 20th, we'll be having a town council meeting. With that, I will ask, if there's nothing further, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes in the affirmative, and we are adjourned. Thank you.